Hey everybody, I'm David Fuller and I'm a modeler just like you, working on the reissue of the original AMT Star Trek kit. I'm doing something a little bit differently with this one. I am going to do a rendition of it as the USS Constitution, that is NCC 1700. And that's so I can have a little bit of fun with how this is working and some aftermarket parts. One of the first things that I did was work on the upper saucer section, which I removed the original bridge section. I want to do this very much like Captain Pike's version in the original pilot. That's kind of my thinking of what the lead ship of the line would be like, since these are Constitution class ships. So the first thing I did was I actually sawed off this original bridge piece, and I did it using just a simple hand saw. Now, this is a little bit heavier saw than what I would normally have used, but the reason is it's got a nice fat blade on it. It's really wide, and so I was able to come in here and hit that and go around without leaving too bad of a scrape mark on the B&C deck. And so that just left a real nice flat surface. I did have to do some sanding just to kind of knock down some of those indications that I saw that off. And then I got from Shapeways, I got an aftermarket pilot bridge, first pilot bridge. You'll notice that it's super high, way more so than the other one. And so that will eventually go right here on the B&C deck. I'll glue that down, get that worked in, but I also did something a little bit different as well. I took, this will come up, I took and went and got just a little clear dome. Now this is really hard to see and you're not really going to be able to see it on this phone camera, but I just got this little dome, and what I did was I took it and turned it over. I taped the top of it and turned it over for the back side, the bottom side, and I spray painted it with a pearl white, Tamiya pearl white paint. And it just gives it this really nice translucent effect, so that when ultimately it's sitting on top of this deck, this bridge dome, it just has a really nice look. It's not lit. The model's not going to be lit. It's going to be static. So it'll just have a really nice look once it's done. The other thing I did before really starting out much is I wanted to figure out how I wanted to handle my nacelles and the bussard collectors, because in the original Enterprise model, the bussard collectors were sort of this funky, kind of orange brown kind of look. It was really odd because the bussards weren't lit yet. And I was able to duplicate that pretty well, but it just didn't feel right. I wanted something with a little bit more pop to it. So first and foremost, what I did was I ordered some of these from Shapeways, and these are aftermarket domes. They already have the ridges in there, and of course you have to add the little, baffle plates or whatever those are. But what I did before I even did anything else was I did paint tests. So I started testing out some different things again, right? So I went with the original color kind of to see how that looked. And then I went with a nice bright red. And then I tested out this copper on there. Didn't like the copper. And then I went over it with a transparent red. And that's what I got with this. And I really like the effect. I just think it has a really nice look to it. And then when I put the gold tips on there, you'll know these little guys right here. So those go on the tip. And when that goes on, that'll have just a really nice look to it, I think. Just really nice retro look. The other thing I did was do some paint tests for the end cap. So you know that on the production Enterprise, you have a little white ball there. But what I wanted was not the other pilot version, second pilot version where it had the vents, but I went back to the original where you have just those little plates right there. That's what's on the first pilot end cap nacelles. So, and I did some color tests, decided kind of, what do I want to do with this? Do I want to go dark, medium? How do I really want to handle this? Research shows that really it was whole color all the way across. There wasn't a lot of accent colors used on the nacelles, but I feel like there needs to be a little bit of something, and I'm going to take a little bit of artistic license with it. So I'm going actually with just a simple primer, gray primer, which has just a really nice look. So in daylight, it has a little bit more washed out look that's closer to the hull and is nice. And then as the day goes by and you get into artificial light, that gray comes out a little bit more and has a little bit more of an accent. One of the other things that I did is because I got these guys and they already have that vent, you see that vent right there on the end, the ridge vent. So I had glued my my nacelle together, and I started working on seams and eliminating those, and realized, I need to cut the vents off of this. You know, that's all of this stuff. Well, so a little lesson here. Don't ever glue your pieces together and then try to cut them, because you're going to wind up doing something stupid like that. So some really generous guys on a Facebook build page sent me replacement nacelles, and I've got the halves where I actually cut those vents off, and I got a nice straight cut, so when you put them together it still mates up really, really nicely. And then these guys will just fit on there just slick as you please. It'll be just really a nice fit and have a good look. So just like you though, you know, we all make mistakes, right? So that's where I am with this. One thing I can tell you when you're painting, and I'll be using this quite a bit, is particularly when I was working on this, right? So the first thing I did was I painted it the base whole color, which I'm using this stuff gotten by a friend of mine. I will call him Doc. Really good guy. Met him over at G&G Hobby here in Houston. It was really a lot of fun to go with those guys and talk and get some pieces that I needed for the construction that we'll get into a little bit later. But you need a local hobby shop if you can get one. There's just great resources there. But anyway, this is a Mr. Color spray. It is a number 11, and it is really a nice matchup to the color for the whole of the Enterprise. I mean, it really just has that nice gray-green look because the Model Master version of the gray is just no longer available. So I use that, and that's why this guy's painted. I was doing a bunch of color tests on the whole to see what would work, and this worked really, really well. But moving on is tape. I have to tell you. So one of the things that I bought was a Tamiya masking tape for curves. This stuff is magnificent when you've got to go around something or you got to actually do a curve. I've used it. Works magnificently. I highly recommend it. It helped me have a lot of control for this, because when I finish it, I want to have some close-ups of the buzzards. And you know, when you get there, you can see, you know, that you got the little attachment points there. That's crucial that those be the right color. So that's just really something that's absolutely important. And then the other thing too is also your Tamiya masking tape. This stuff, you'll recognize that. It's great. And of course, frog tape. Can't say enough about frog tape. It's the green stuff that you see out there. Anyway, I'm going to cut this loose, and I've got to get back to getting this prepped out, and we'll do more of this later. And thank you.